Yeah, I've lived in Fayetteville for 21 years. I moved here in 2003 to go to the University of Arkansas, and like so many of us, decided to stick around. Professionally, I'm a commercial relationship manager, and so in that role, I work with a lot of small business owners and nonprofits and commercial real estate developers and investors, and so have some insight into how housing projects are financed, and also the challenges that employers, small and large, face when hiring workforce, and how housing and related issues like transportation play into their ability to attract and retain top talent. Well, it is a major problem. And housing is such a deeply personal issue for so many of us. And for Northwest Arkansas and for Fayetteville, I think it's a relatively new challenge. So if we think back 10 years ago, we really kind of bragged about how affordable of a place we were. And that has changed, and changed really quickly over the last 10, maybe 15 years. And so I got involved in housing back in 2011. I joined the board of a nonprofit housing developer called Partners for Better Housing, really trying to get ahead of some of these challenges that we saw related to our Northwest Arkansas and Fayetteville being discovered by the country as such an amazing place to live. So we want to continue to grow. We want to continue to add quality of life amenities that we all enjoy, but growth brings challenges. And so being intentional and being proactive about how we preserve the affordable housing that we have, how we build more housing of all types. We need more single-family housing. We need more market-rate multifamily housing, and we need more affordable units. And we also need more pathways to home ownership so that people can access their first home and begin to build wealth in that asset. So it's a complicated problem that I've had the chance to be involved in over the last 12, 14 years. And my hope is that my experience working with both with market rate and with mission-driven real estate developers can help lend some ideas, some solutions, but also I also think it's really important that we're really thoughtful about the process that we manage and design as a task force to ensure that it's not just the diverse group of 9 of us that are at the table, but there are so many other voices in our community that have ideas, that have experiences that need to be shared. And my hope is that we can design a really inclusive and transparent process that includes many, many stakeholders and arrives at the best solutions. I think our regional growth and prosperity has contributed to some of our housing challenges, but also that doesn't mean that the answer is not to stop growing. The answer is to get better at proactively addressing these growth-related challenges. So, and I think because housing is such a new issue for Northwest Arkansas, we've really only been working at solving housing challenges for maybe the last 7 to 10 years as a community. And housing takes a long time to build. It's capital intensive. Affordable housing in particular is complicated from a financial perspective and so it takes even longer to build. And then during that time, we've had COVID and all of the supply chain and construction cost and labor shortage related challenges that were exacerbated by COVID. And so we've been at work building the capacity and the knowledge and the know-how that we need to address the challenge, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done. We need to build capacity in the nonprofit sector through like nonprofit housing developers and property managers. We need to develop capacity in the public sector, in the philanthropic sector, in the private sector, and that takes time. And so we've made some progress over the last 10 years. There's a number of affordable and mixed income housing developments that are at different stages of being built out, but we know that we have to accelerate the efforts that are already underway. So as we know, housing is a complex issue, and there's no one silver bullet. There's no one magic solution that the task force or anyone else is going to come up with that's just going to solve the problem overnight. We need a diversity of perspectives at the table when we're crafting solutions. And so, on the task force, we have large developers, we have small scale developers, we have lenders and finance folks, we have architects, we have social workers, we have folks from the trade associations. So we have a diversity of perspective at the table. We also know that there is a whole lot, it would be impossible to capture the entire diversity of perspective in our community in a 9-member task force. So I believe that the most important work in front of the task force over the next month or two is to design an inclusive and transparent process, a process that engages additional people who aren't on the task force, a process that thinks about how we deepen coordination across sectors that are connected to housing, such as transportation, healthcare, workforce development, construction trades. There are so many different aspects of this challenge, and so many different solutions that different agencies, businesses, individuals can bring to the table. And we know that we're stronger when we work together across industry sectors, across public sector, across private sector, across nonprofit and philanthropic sector to pool our resources and hopefully end up in a situation where 1 + 1 = 3, where we can leapfrog and through coordination and collaboration we can drive some really thoughtful and strategic and proactive solutions, policies, and programs.
Yeah, and maybe kind of like what you kind of like, touched on it a little bit about maybe having this process where kind of like more voices, can be heard and everything, because this is a complex issue. There's different kind of like problems with it, but I know that kind of like with me kind of going to city council meetings and stuff, one of kind of like the major kind of points is maybe that, there isn't a renter possibly, on the task force, right?
Yeah.
That's, kind of like community members, have kind of raised concerns a little bit about it, because, maybe they're worried about the connection or, are you guys gonna, really know how difficult it is, living paycheck to paycheck, with the housing thing. So maybe kind of like from your perspective, how would you, maybe even kind of like ease those concerns, or what would you like to say that maybe kind of community members that do have, this type of concern?
Yeah. So while all of us on the task force have been renters at some point, I'm not sure that any of us have rented in Northwest Arkansas over the last 5 years when these problems have become far bigger than they were previously. So I think through the design of our process, how we go to the community and ask for feedback, how we incorporate community voices in not just in our meetings, but in the development of solutions will be extremely important, because ultimately when we forward recommendations or ideas to the City Council, it will be extremely important that a broad, a broad coalition, a broad group of the vast majority of our community is in support of those solutions. So we need to, I think we need to start with community engagement and start by going to those closest to the problem, and that those who work in the industries with direct experience providing housing, to start with a really good understanding of what the challenge is, so that we can be sure that we bring great solutions to the table, but also that we bring great solutions that don't have unintended consequences.